Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Dancing on Glass. Dancing on Glass is a Spanish drama that tells the story of Irene, a ballerina student who has been awarded the lead role for the ballet performance Gazelle after the previous lead committed suicide. She develops a bond with a fellow ballet student named Aurora during this time, and all seems well at first. Eventually, the pressures of training start to weigh down on Irene, and she finds her relationship with Aurora being tested by others. Nevertheless, the two commit to maintaining their bond despite Irene's increasing isolation and declining health, as they work toward creating their own world free from society's expectations. This is one of those slow burn kinds of dramas that can take a while to get into, but I found myself enjoying it quite a bit, and I was surprised to see reviews of it being more mixed. It definitely isn't perfect, but it does a great job at communicating the obsessive nature of the art of ballet and the struggles that dancers go through with it. Irene's dedication to becoming Gazelle is both fascinating and sad to witness. She practically sacrifices herself for the art of ballet, becoming distant from her family and inducing vomiting so that she can control her body weight. While her dedication is admirable at first, it becomes more disheartening to see her destroy herself. This doesn't mean her character is unlikable though. She's a good person at heart with a loving family who's simply caught in the stress of being involved in one of her life's passions, and so it was easy for me to root for her to pull through and avoid the same fate as the character she took over for. Aurora adds further intrigue to the plot once she's formally introduced. Like with Irene, she has issues with body image, though this comes in the form of her facial appearance as opposed to her body, and she also has family concern for her well-being as well. The most interesting thing about her is her ability to transport herself to an ethereal realm separate from where she dances, where people become crystal figures. This allows her to perform without fear of judgment from others, and this added an air of mystery that, combined with her shy and kind personality, made me interested to see how she could influence Irene in a positive way. Unfortunately, the relationship between Irene and Aurora is probably the weakest part about the story. By itself, the bond they have is understandable enough. Aurora is lonely, and Irene needs to escape from the pressures of dancing, so the two do complete each other fairly well in this sense. However, the closeness of their relationship isn't very convincing considering how quickly they hit things off. It seemed like they only hung out with each other a few times before Irene was able to dance fearlessly in the same way Aurora is able to. There's just some sort of disconnect between the two that made it hard for me to believe in Aurora's impact on Irene. Outside of this, the dynamic between the two leads is presented well enough. What I found myself more absorbed with was the attention to detail with all of the little things that go into the lifestyle of ballet dancing, and how they all contributed to affecting Irene's self-image over time. Things like tracking weight, locker room gossiping, and physical injuries are just a few of the examples that Irene has to deal with on a regular basis. There are also some elements that are made out to be problems, but are in fact nothing more than a manifestation of Irene's psyche, as a result of her increasing isolation to perfect her craft. An example of this can be found in the character of Ruth, who is jealous of Irene getting the lead role of Gazelle. Without spoiling too much about her, I like how she isn't who she appears to be at first glance. Even though she and Irene don't like each other, their relationship goes beyond being just a typical grudge. The psychological torment that Irene undergoes builds to a fevered pitch over time. It isn't noticeable at first, but her transformation becomes more concerning as everything starts to affect her. It was unsettling with how raw and authentic it appeared on screen, and this slow burn approach to the story made for a more immersive experience. This is especially so as Irene spends more time with her instructor Norma, who steers her toward the direction she takes in the movie. Even though Norma is complicit in promoting the self-destructive behavior that Irene engages in, I like that she's humanized in a way that one can understand her point of view without necessarily condoning it. There's a lot of parallels that can be drawn between Irene's story and that of Maria, the girl she replaced for the lead role. The mystery behind Maria's circumstances added more to the mystery aspect of the story, which kept me invested to see what really happened, and the thematic consistency of the cycle of abuse and rising and falling from grace made it easier to sympathize with these characters. Aurora also suffers in this regard as well. Her mother, being a former dancer herself, knows exactly what kinds of dangers and risks her daughter could find herself in, and does her best to look out for her without realizing that she's hurting her. There's a lot of detail to unpack about how people do things for the good of others without knowing the long-term consequences of what they do. The movie itself is divided into two acts, in the same way that the ballet performance Gazelle is. The first act is more lighthearted in nature, while the second takes a darker turn, reflecting how characters got what they wanted in the beginning before it ends up being their worst nightmare. The movie's title can be connected in this sense, as characters tread a thin line between fulfilling their passion and the pain and suffering they have to endure to maintain it. Once again, it keeps the story thematically consistent and thus easy to follow along with. This being said, I found myself bothered by how the transition between acts occurred. It basically boils down to teen drama over something that barely has anything to do with the story at large, which makes the shift jarring in how it proceeds. It goes without saying that the actual actual dances that take place in this movie are beautiful in their presentation. The cinematography is excellent, with the dances themselves usually resembling the emotional state of the performer in conjunction with careful lighting and thoughtful use of classical music. Pretty much everything about its technical presentation was spot on, especially when Gazelle finally premiered. It is a bit on the longer side, but this didn't bother me as much compared to how ambiguously it ended. It's meant to represent an epiphany that Irene and Aurora come to, but it doesn't entirely feel earned, considering the unconvincing closeness that the pair are supposed to have. Outside of this, I'm generally not a fan of endings that don't commit to a definite conclusion. On the whole, though, it remained compelling to watch to the end, and the events leading to the ending were definitely a lot more memorable by comparison. The movie isn't exactly original with how it portrays ballet as an abusive art form, but its messages still prove meaningful. Overall, Dancing on Glass is a great drama that explores the lengths people go to accomplish their dreams and preserve the beauty of art at the expense of their health and well-being. If you like dramas that have a psychological factor to them and you want to see its themes unfold in a slow burn manner, I think you should definitely check this one out. The relationship between the lead characters needed a bit more work and time to develop properly, but they're still great characters on their own merits, and its unapologetic portrayal of the world of ballet alone made the movie worth watching. What did you think about this movie? Were you blown away by its graphic portrayal of the world of ballet, or were you also unconvinced about the relationship of the lead characters? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Dancing on Glass. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Polish rom-com, The Taming of the Shrew. Bye bye!